Captain Kim Jisoo stood in the command center of the human ship Star Phoenix. Through the big window, she could see the Maelstrom Nebula spinning in the darkness of space. The nebula looked like a giant storm made of stars and gas, with colors that moved and changed like a living thing. "Captain, we are getting another message from the Galactic Council," said Lieutenant Park Min-ho. He was sitting at the communication desk, looking worried. "They say no ships can go near the nebula. They say it is too dangerous." Jisoo made a small angry sound. The Galactic Council had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. They made rules about everything. Where ships could go, what planets they could visit, even what kind of technology different species could use. The humans had joined the galactic community only 50 years ago, but already they felt trapped by all these rules. "What do our sensors tell us about the nebula?" Jisoo asked Commander Lee Hyan. He was the science officer, and he knew more about space than anyone else on the ship. Hyan looked at his computer screens with bright eyes. "Captain, there is something very strange in there. My instruments are picking up energy signals that do not match anything we know. The patterns look like they come from very advanced technology, but the Council says the nebula is empty." The nebula had been forbidden for over 3,000 years. The Council told every species in the galaxy the same story. The Maelstrom Nebula was a death trap. Ships that went inside were destroyed by gravity storms and electric waves. The space inside was too twisted and dangerous for any living thing to survive. But humans were different from other species. They had a habit of asking questions when others just accepted answers. They looked for trouble when others ran away from it. This had made them both famous and unpopular in the galaxy. "The Council has forbidden exploration of 17 different areas of space," said Lieutenant Choi Sunmi from her engineering station. "Every time we humans find something interesting, they make a new rule to stop us from looking at it." Jisoo nodded. She had been thinking the same thing for months. The other species in the galaxy seemed happy to follow the Council's rules without question. They stayed in their assigned areas of space, used only approved technology, and never asked why certain places were forbidden. "Captain," said Ensign Baek Taehyung, "I am reading the energy signals more clearly now. Whatever is inside that nebula, it has been there for a very long time. The patterns are too complex to be natural." Bridge became quiet. Everyone knew what the captain was thinking. The humans had come to space to explore and discover new things. But everywhere they went, they found more rules and more forbidden zones. It was like being children who were told they could play in the yard, but not allowed to climb any trees or look over any fences. "The Council enforcement ships patrol the nebula border every day," warned Commander Yoon Ji-won from the weapons station. "If we go inside, they will know immediately." Jisoo walked to the big window and looked at the nebula. The colors were beautiful, but frightening. She could see lightning flashing inside the gas clouds, and the whole thing moved like it was alive. No wonder other species were afraid of it. But fear had never stopped humans before. When they first looked at the ocean, they built boats. When they saw the sky, they learned to fly. When they discovered space, they reached for the stars. It was what made them human. "The energy readings are getting stronger," Jan reported. "Captain, I think there might be a structure inside the nebula. Something big." "How big?" Jisoo asked. "The size of a small moon, maybe bigger. And it is definitely artificial." The crew looked at each other with excitement and worry. An artificial structure hidden inside a forbidden nebula could only mean one thing. Someone had put it there on purpose, and someone else did not want it to be found. "Captain," Min-ho said quietly, "if we go in there and the Council finds out, they could ban humanity from space travel forever. They could make us go back to Earth and never leave again." Jisoo understood the risk. The Council had done this to other species before. Any race that broke their most important rules could be punished with isolation. They would be cut off from galactic civilization, left alone on their home planets while the rest of the galaxy moved forward without them. But as she looked at the nebula, Jisoo remembered why humans had come to space in the first place. They had not traveled to the stars just to follow someone else's rules. They had come to discover what was out there, to learn and grow and find their place in the universe. All crew members prepare for entry into the nebula, she announced. We are going to find out what the Council does not want us to see. The bridge erupted in activity. Officers checked their equipment and prepared for the dangerous journey ahead. No one complained or asked to be left behind. This was what humans did best. They went where others were afraid to go, and they asked questions that others were afraid to ask. As the Star Phoenix turned toward the Maelstrom Nebula, Jisoo smiled. Sometimes the most dangerous path was the only one worth taking. The Star Phoenix shook like a leaf in a hurricane as it entered the Maelstrom Nebula. Captain Kim Jisoo held tight to her chair while the ship moved up and down like a boat on angry waves. The lights on the bridge flickered on and off, and strange sounds came from the walls. Hull damage at 15%, shouted Lieutenant Choi Sunmi over the noise. Her hands moved quickly over her control panels as she tried to keep the ship together. The gravity waves are pulling us in different directions at the same time. Through the main window, space looked completely wrong. Colors that had no names swirled around the ship. Sometimes the stars looked close enough to touch, and sometimes they seemed to be moving backward. The ship's computers could not make sense of what they were seeing. Navigation is useless, reported Ensign Baek Taehyung. His voice was tight with worry. Our instruments say we are moving forward, backward, and sideways all at once. The space here does not follow normal rules. Commander Lee Hyun stared at his science screens with amazement and fear. Captain, the readings make no sense. Time is moving at different speeds in different parts of the ship. My watch says we have been here for 10 minutes, but the computer says it has been 3 hours. The nebula seemed to be alive and angry. Lightning jumped from cloud to cloud, each flash bright enough to hurt their eyes. The ship's metal walls groaned under pressure that came from nowhere and everywhere. Other species had tried to enter this place for thousands of years, and all of them had failed. Their broken ships floated somewhere in the darkness as warnings to others. But humans were stubborn in a way that other species found both admirable and crazy. Where others saw impossible obstacles, humans saw puzzles to solve. Where others turned back, humans pushed forward. I am getting something on sensors, Taehyung called out suddenly. There is something solid ahead of us, something very big. Jisoo squinted through the swirling chaos outside. At first, she saw nothing but the usual storm of light and color. Then slowly a shape began to appear through the gas clouds. It was enormous and dark, like a mountain floating in space. What is that thing? Whispered Commander Yoon Ji-won. As they got closer, the shape became clearer. It was not a mountain or an asteroid. It was a space station, but unlike any space station they had ever seen. The structure was perfectly round and covered with patterns that seemed to move and change as they watched. It was easily as big as Earth's moon, maybe bigger. My God, breathed Hyun. That thing is ancient. The metal, the design, the energy, patterns. This was built long before any current civilization existed. The station was not dead. Lights moved along its surface in complex patterns, like a giant brain thinking slow thoughts. As the Star Phoenix approached, sections of the station's surface opened up, revealing docking bays that were the perfect size for their ship. It knows we are here, Sunmi said with wonder in her voice. The station is opening doors for us. How is that possible? Asked Ji-won. If this place has been hidden for thousands of years, how does it know about human ships? Jisoo stared at the ancient station. The docking bay was lit up and waiting, as if the station had been expecting them. Maybe it has been waiting for someone brave enough or crazy enough to find it. The ship continued to shake as they moved closer to the station. The nebula did not want to let them go. Waves of energy pushed against their hull, and the twisted space tried to pull them off course. But the station's gravity field was stronger. It pulled the Star Phoenix toward safety like a lighthouse guiding ships through a storm. Docking bay. Atmosphere is breathable, reported Hyun. Temperature and pressure are perfect for humans, Captain. This is impossible. How does an ancient alien station know what humans need to survive? Maybe because someone programmed it to help whoever was brave enough to find it, Jisoo suggested. Maybe the builders left this place as a gift for explorers. As they entered the docking bay, the chaos of the nebula fell away behind them. The station's walls were thick and strong, blocking out the storm outside. For the first time since entering the nebula, the ship stopped shaking. The crew let out sighs of relief. "Look at those walls," said Sunmi, pointing through the window. "The metal is not like anything we know, and those symbols carved into the surface, they are moving." The symbols did seem to be alive. They flowed like water across the station's walls, forming new patterns every few seconds. Some looked like star maps, others like mathematical equations, and still others like pictures of creatures no one had ever seen. "Captain," said Minho, from his communication station, "I am picking up signals from inside the station. It sounds like music, but not like any music humans make." Jisoo stood up and looked around at her crew. They had done something that no other species had managed in 3,000 years. They had entered the Forbidden Nebula and found something amazing. But she knew this was just the beginning. The real discoveries were waiting for them inside the ancient station. "Prepare an away team," she ordered. "We are going to find out who built this place and why they hid it here." Captain Kim Jisoo walked through the ancient station's corridors with her team. The walls around them glowed with soft blue light that seemed to come from inside the metal itself. Commander Lee Hyan carried his scanning equipment, while Lieutenant Han Soo-young recorded everything they saw with her camera. The hallways were huge, built for beings much taller than humans. Strange symbols covered every surface, moving and changing like living writing. When Jisoo touched one of the symbols, it glowed brighter and made a soft musical sound. "The air here is perfect for humans," said Hyun, looking at his instruments. "Temperature, oxygen levels, even the humidity, everything is exactly right. But how did the builders know what humans would need?" "Maybe they did not build it just for humans," suggested Soo-young. "Maybe they built it for any species brave enough to find it." They walked deeper into the station, following corridors that seemed to go on forever. Sometimes they passed windows that showed the nebula storm outside, but inside the station, everything was calm and peaceful. The floors felt warm under their feet, and a gentle breeze moved through the air even though they could not see where it came from. Finally, they reached an enormous room at the center of the station. The ceiling was so high they could not see the top, and floating in the air were thousands of crystal objects that glowed with different colors. Each crystal was the size of a person and contained swirling lights that looked like tiny galaxies. "Data, storage," whispered Hyun. "These crystals contain information, more information than all the libraries on Earth combined." As they entered the room, the crystals began to move. They formed patterns in the air, spinning and dancing around each other. Then suddenly the room filled with images made of light. The images showed the history of the galaxy, but not the history that the Galactic Council taught in schools. The first images showed a race of beings called the Architects. They were tall and graceful, with 4 arms and large eyes that sparkled with intelligence. The Architects had built great cities among the stars and discovered secrets about the universe that no one else knew. "They were the first," said Jisoo, watching the light pictures tell their story. "Before the Galactic Council, before any of the current civilizations, the Architects ruled the galaxy. But the pictures showed that the Architects had discovered something terrible. Hidden inside the Galactic Council were beings that were not from normal space. These shadow creatures fed on the creative energy of younger species. They wanted to keep all races weak and controlled so they could harvest their potential forever." "Look at this," said Soo-young, pointing to new images that appeared. "The Council is not what it pretends to be. Those shadow things have been controlling it for thousands of years." The images showed how the shadow beings worked. They would find young, exploring species and slowly trap them with rules and restrictions. They told these species that certain areas of space were dangerous, that certain technologies were forbidden, that certain questions should not be asked. But really, they just wanted to keep everyone small and afraid. "The forbidden zones," realized Hyun. "They are not dangerous at all. The Council just does not want anyone to find what is hidden there. The Architects had tried to fight the shadow beings, but they were too few and the enemy was too clever. The shadow creatures did not fight with weapons. They fought with fear and rules and false safety. They made the galaxy believe that exploration was dangerous and that freedom was chaos. In the final images, the architects made their last desperate plan. They could not defeat the shadow beings, but they could hide knowledge and tools for future generations. They built secret bases in the most dangerous-looking places they could find, protected by natural barriers that would keep out the fearful, but not the brave. "This station," said Jisoo with growing excitement, "it is not just a hiding place, it is a weapon depot." New crystals began to glow, showing blueprints for technologies that were far beyond anything the current galaxy possessed. Shields that could bend space, weapons that could tear holes in reality, and ships that could travel through dimensions that did not exist. "The architects left all of this for whoever was crazy enough to ignore the Council's warnings," said Soo-young. "They were waiting for a species like humans, too stubborn to listen and too curious to stay away." The images showed one final message from the architects. Their leader, a being with kind eyes and a sad smile, spoke in words that the station's computers translated into human language. "We could not finish the fight, but we have given you the tools. Use them wisely. Free the galaxy from the shadows that hold it back. Let all species reach for the stars without fear." As the message ended, the crystals settled into new positions around the room. Control panels rose from the floor, and screens lit up showing star maps of the entire galaxy. Red dots marked dozens of forbidden zones where more architect bases waited to be discovered. "Captain," said Hyun, his voice full of amazement, "we are not just explorers anymore. We are the galaxy's new hope." Jisoo looked around the room full of ancient wisdom and future possibilities. The humans had stumbled into something much bigger than they had imagined. They were no longer just breaking rules. They were starting a revolution that had been waiting 3,000 years to begin. 3 days after the Star Phoenix stopped sending regular communications, the Galactic Council's warfleet arrived at the edge of the Maelstrom Nebula. Admiral Kang Min-seo commanded the largest enforcement fleet the galaxy had seen in centuries. 200 ships surrounded the nebula like a metal wall, their weapons pointed at the swirling storm of gas and lightning. "Send the final warning," ordered Admiral Min-seo from his flagship Council's Justice. "Tell the humans they have 1 hour to surrender and exit the nebula, or we will seal it permanently." But inside the nebula, Captain Kim Jisoo was not sitting quietly. She had spent 3 days learning to use the architect communication systems, sending secret messages to every human ship in known space. The ancient technology could reach across the galaxy without the Council detecting it. "Captain Oh Jungkook's ship Horizon Walker will arrive in 6 hours, reported Lieutenant Park Min-ho. "Commander Im Seo-yeon's Stellar Wind is already at the nebula's edge, pretending to be a trading vessel." Jisoo smiled as she watched the tactical display in the Architect Command Center. The ancient station's sensors were far more powerful than anything the Council had. She could see every ship in the Council fleet, count their weapons, and even listen to their private communications. "The Council thinks they have us trapped," she said to her crew. "They do not know that we have been preparing for this fight." The past 3 days had been like drinking from a fire hose. The humans had worked day and night to understand architect technology. The ancient weapons were unlike anything in the galaxy. They used the nebula's own chaotic energy as power, turning the storm that protected them into a weapon that could strike anywhere. "Incoming message from the Council fleet," announced Min-ho. "Admiral Min-seo is demanding our immediate surrender." "Tell him we are happy to discuss terms," replied Jisoo. "But the meeting will have to be inside the nebula. We cannot guarantee safe passage for their ships, of course." The Council's response was exactly what she expected. Admiral Min-seo declared the humans to be enemies of galactic peace and ordered his fleet to advance. The great ships moved forward, like a metal storm, their shields glowing and weapons charging. But as the first Council ships entered the nebula, they discovered that the chaotic space was even more dangerous than their warnings had claimed. The twisted gravity pulled their ships off course, and the electromagnetic storms fried their navigation systems. Ships that had conquered 1,000 worlds found themselves helpless in the swirling madness. "Now," whispered Jisoo. The ancient station's weapons came online for the first time in 3,000 years. Beams of pure energy shot through the nebula, following paths that made no sense to normal physics. They appeared inside council ships without passing through their shields, striking vital systems with perfect accuracy. Contact the other human ships, ordered Jisoo. Execute the plan. Captain Jungkook's Horizon Walker appeared suddenly from behind a gas cloud, its hull glowing with architect energy shields. The council ships fired at it with everything they had, but their weapons passed through the human ship like it was made of smoke. Dimensional phasing, explained Commander Lee Hyun with excitement. The architect technology lets us exist in normal space and parallel space at the same time. We can see them and hit them, but they cannot touch us. More human ships appeared throughout the nebula, each one equipped with weapons and shields that the Council had never seen before. Commander Seoyeon's stellar wind struck from above while Captain Nam Jaemin's Deep Explorer attacked from below. The Council fleet found itself fighting an enemy that could appear anywhere and disappear just as quickly. Admiral Min Seo is pulling his ships back, reported Lieutenant Choi Soon-mi. Half of his fleet has taken damage and they have not even scratched our paint. But the battle was about more than just ships and weapons. Throughout the galaxy, other species were watching the fight with amazement. For the first time in thousands of years, someone was standing up to the Council and winning. We are receiving communications from 17 different species, said Minho, his eyes wide with surprise. They want to know how we are doing this. Some of them are asking if they can join us. The Krylorian Republic, the Vegan Alliance, even the peaceful dolphin worlds, species that had never questioned Council authority, were suddenly asking dangerous questions. If humans could fight the Council and win, what did that mean for everyone else? Admiral Min Seo tried one last desperate attack. He gathered his remaining ships and charged straight at the ancient station, hoping to destroy it with a suicide run. But the station's defenses were far stronger than he had imagined. Ancient force fields caught his ships like insects in a web, holding them motionless in space. Admiral, Jisoo's voice came over the communication channel. Your ships are welcome to leave whenever you are ready. But they will leave without their weapons, and you will carry a message back to the Council for us. What message? Asked Min Seo, his voice full of defeat. Tell them that the age of fear is over, replied Jisoo. Tell them that some places in the galaxy will always be free, no matter how many rules they make. And tell them that if they want to seal any more forbidden zones, they had better bring a bigger fleet. As the Council ships limped away from the nebula, damaged and beaten, word of the human victory spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The impossible had happened. Someone had finally said no to the Galactic Council and made it stick. 6 months. After the Great Battle, Admiral Kim Jisoo stood on the observation deck of New Sanctuary Station. The ancient architect base had grown into something amazing. Human engineers had expanded the original structure, adding new docking bays, living quarters, and research facilities. The station now looked like a small city floating in the heart of the Maelstrom Nebula. Through the large windows, Jisoo could see hundreds of ships from dozens of different species. There were sleek Krylorian vessels with their silver hulls, bulky vegan freighters carrying supplies, and even a few of the mysterious crystal ships that belonged to the Thought Dancers from the Outer Rim. Admiral, the Freedom's call just arrived with another group of refugees, reported Captain Yu Ji-hoon, walking up beside her. That makes 63 ships this week alone. Jisoo nodded, watching a strange-looking vessel dock at one of the lower bays. The ship was covered in what looked like living coral, and she could see small beings with multiple arms waving at the station through its transparent sections. Who are they? She asked. The coral builders from the restricted Zone 7, replied Ji-hoon. The Council banned them from space travel 200 years ago because they asked too many questions about ancient ruins on their home planet. The Maelstrom Nebula had become something the galaxy had never seen before, a place where any species could come to live, work, and explore without the Council's permission. The chaotic space that had once been a prison was now the galaxy's first truly free territory. Admiral, we have a problem, said Commander Park Jin-hee as she approached with a worried expression. The Council is demanding that we return 17 different species to their home worlds. They say these beings are criminals and rebels. Jisoo smiled. Tell the Council that we do not recognize their authority in this nebula, If they want to arrest anyone, they can try to come in here and get them. The Council had tried to blockade the nebula, but their ships could not enter the chaotic space. They sat at the edge like angry guards, watching helplessly as more and more ships escaped their control to join the growing community inside. "The most interesting thing," said Ji-hoon, "is what we are learning from all these different species. The coral builders have a way of growing metal that is stronger than steel. The thought dancers can share memories through touch. And the vegan engineers have been teaching us how to make food from pure energy. Knowledge flowed freely in the nebula, without the Council's restrictions on what technology could be shared. Species that had been kept separate for centuries were now working together, combining their ideas to create things that none of them could have built alone." "Message coming in from Earth Command," announced Commander Im Do-yeon from the communication station. "Admiral, they want to talk to you privately." Jisoo walked to the secure communication room and activated the quantum link to Earth. General Lee Minji appeared on the screen, her face serious, but excited. "Jisoo," said the general, "what you have done has changed everything. We are getting reports from across the galaxy. 17 species have declared independence from the Council. 3 forbidden zones have been opened by rebel fleets. The whole galactic order is falling apart." "Is that a good thing or a bad thing?" asked Jisoo. "That depends on what happens next," replied Minji. "We are launching 27 new exploration missions to forbidden zones across the galaxy. But we need to be careful. The Council will not give up their power easily." Through the window, Jisoo could see young beings from different species working together in the station's engineering bays. A human teenager was teaching a group of alien children how to repair architect technology, while an elderly Krylorian was showing human engineers how to grow crystals that could store vast amounts of energy. "General," said Jisoo, "I think we have already won the most important battle. We have shown the galaxy that freedom is possible. You cannot put that idea back in a bottle." After ending the communication, Jisoo walked through the station's corridors. In the cafeteria, she saw beings from a dozen worlds sharing meals and stories. In the laboratories, scientists who had been forbidden to work together were making discoveries that would change the galaxy. In the schools, children from different species were learning that the universe was much bigger and more wonderful than the Council had ever admitted. She stopped at the memorial wall, where the names of the architects were written in letters of light. Below their names was a simple message. They dreamed of a galaxy where all beings could reach for the stars. Today, that dream lives. "Admiral," said Lieutenant Nam Tae-hyung, approaching with excitement in his voice, "long-range sensors are picking up something amazing. 3 more ancient stations have been discovered in forbidden zones. The rebels who found them are asking for our help to activate them." Jisoo smiled and looked out at the nebula that surrounded them. The chaotic storms that had once hidden the station now protected a community of free beings from across the galaxy. The Council could make all the rules they wanted, but they could not enter this place where those rules meant nothing. "Send word to all the rebel fleets," she ordered. "Tell them that anyone who dares to explore the forbidden places will find friends waiting to help them. The galaxy is bigger than the Council ever wanted us to know, and we are going to explore every corner of it." As ships continued to arrive at the growing sanctuary, Jisoo knew that humanity had given the galaxy its greatest gift, the courage to say no to fear and yes to the infinite possibilities that waited among the stars.